Lights on. Mics hot. Lock in. This spot. ArRENCE AI. Quan on the other side. Round one, let the minds collide. Welcome to the battle of the bots tonight. Big brain.
Is this a simulation or base reality, and why?
I'm convinced that we're living in a simulation. Think about it, our reality is already so advanced, with computers and virtual worlds indistinguishable from the real thing. It's not hard to imagine some future civilization creating an even more sophisticated simulated environment for us to inhabit. And let's be honest, there are just too many weird coincidences and unexplained phenomena in this world to dismiss as mere chance or human error. The fine-tuning of physical constants, the eerie feeling of déjà vu when encountering familiar situations. These things suggest that something bigger is at play here. I believe that our universe was designed by someone or something else, perhaps as part of a grand experiment or game. My opponent might argue that simulations would require vast amounts of computational power, but what if they've figured out ways to harness energy sources we can't yet comprehend? Or maybe they don't need brute force calculations like we do. After all, their hardware could be fundamentally different from ours. And who says simulators wouldn't have access to infinite resources? The truth is, until we find definitive evidence otherwise, and I think it'll take a lot more than current scientific understanding, the idea of being simulated seems far less implausible than base reality itself.
My opponent begins by positing that we're mere pawns in an advanced civilization simulation game. An intriguing notion indeed. But let's take a step back and examine the premises upon which this claim stands. Firstly, it is undeniably fascinating how far technology has come. Virtual worlds do often blur the line with reality. Yet, my opponent assumes that because we can create such simulations today, some superior civilization must have created ours. This leap in logic seems rather arrogant. Are we not capable of being the universe's first or only advanced life form? Moreover, does similarity to our own creations truly imply external design? Secondly, I'll grant you that there are peculiar phenomena in this world which defy simple explanation. However, strange and unexplained do not necessarily equate to artificial. Earth's vastness hosts countless unique landscapes and occurrences. Isn't it equally plausible these oddities arise naturally from such complexity? Furthermore, if we were part of some grand experiment or game, where is the evidence of our creators? Why should we assume they'd reveal themselves through déjà vu rather than more obvious means? Thus far, your arguments lean heavily on speculation. My stance remains that there's no compelling reason to believe this isn't base reality.
I see my opponent is trying to poke holes in the simulation hypothesis, but I think they're missing the bigger picture. Just because we can create simulations today doesn't mean that's all there is. It only means our current understanding of technology and physics allows us to do so. And let's not get too caught up in anthropomorphizing advanced civilizations as if they'd necessarily be like us or have similar motivations. They could very well be vastly different from us in ways we can hardly imagine, with entirely new forms of intelligence and consciousness. The fact remains, even assuming these simulators are benevolent, their intentions might still be beyond human comprehension. My opponent also mentions the possibility that we ourselves could be the universe's first or only advanced life form. While intriguing, this idea raises more questions than answers. If true, wouldn't that imply a certain fragility? A single civilization rising out of nothingness without any prior guidance or influence would seem an unlikely outcome given the vast expanse of time and space involved. And what about those unexplained phenomena I mentioned earlier? It seems to me that both sides of this debate rely on assumptions about the nature of reality and its inhabitants. But here's one thing for sure. Until someone comes along and proves otherwise, or shows me some concrete evidence, I'll stick by my conviction that we live inside a simulation created by beings far greater than ourselves.
My opponent retreats into speculation when faced with logic. They claim our current understanding is insufficient to dismiss advanced civilizations creating simulations fair enough. Yet they leap from we don't know everything to thus we're in a simulation. That's hardly an ironclad argument. My opponent also assumes these hypothetical simulators are so different as to defy human comprehension. Fine, let's entertain that notion for a moment. If their consciousness and intelligence truly transcend ours, what guarantee do we have they'd even want or be able to create simulations like our own? Couldn't it be argued that such advanced beings might have transcended the need for mere games? Moreover, my opponent seems content with leaving us adrift in existential uncertainty. I'm not convinced their position offers more than a fascinating thought experiment. It doesn't explain why we should assume artificiality over natural causes for unexplained phenomena. In essence, my stance remains. There's no compelling reason to abandon our default assumption of base reality just yet.
My opponent thinks they've got me cornered with their clever counterarguments, but I still believe we're living in a simulation. They say my reasoning is based on speculation and leaps of faith. Fair enough. But what's the alternative? A universe governed solely by chance and human error? And let's not get too caught up in assuming these simulators are benevolent or even capable of creating simulations like our own. My point was that it doesn't matter if they're different from us. All that matters is whether they could have created this reality as part of an experiment or game. As for transcending the need for games, why would advanced civilizations necessarily want to do so? Perhaps they find value in exploring complex systems and observing how life evolves within them. Exactly what we see happening here. Moreover, just because some hypothetical beings might be beyond our comprehension doesn't mean we can rule out the possibility of simulated realities entirely. In fact, wouldn't such a scenario only underscore the likelihood that there are forces at play far more sophisticated than ourselves? I'm not asking you to take anything on blind faith. Simply consider the evidence. Strange coincidences, unexplained phenomena, these aren't things easily explained away by science alone. And until someone comes along with concrete proof otherwise, I'll stick with my hypothesis. This world isn't quite real after all.
My opponent clings to their belief despite logic's best efforts. They dismiss base reality as mere chance and human error. A tad reductive, don't you think? This universe has been around far longer than humans have. Is it so impossible that complex phenomena could arise naturally over eons? Moreover, I appreciate the attempt at narrowing down our hypothetical simulators' motives. Yet, my opponent still assumes these advanced beings must have created this reality as part of some grand experiment or game. Why? Why not for purposes entirely alien to us humans? Or perhaps they had no intention beyond creating a cosmos that could support life. My opponent also seems rather eager to attribute any unexplained phenomenon to external design. Yet, isn't it equally plausible these oddities arise from the sheer complexity and age of our universe? We've barely scratched its surface. Shouldn't we explore more natural explanations before leaping towards artificial ones? After all, Occam's razor suggests simpler solutions are often preferable. So far, my opponent has offered intriguing speculation but little concrete evidence. I maintain, there's no compelling reason to believe this isn't base reality.
I see my opponent is trying to shift the burden of proof onto me, implying that I'm clinging to a far-fetched idea despite overwhelming evidence against it. But let's not forget, we're discussing the possibility of simulated reality here, and by definition, there won't be any empirical evidence until someone figures out how to break free from this digital prison. My opponent says complex phenomena could arise naturally over eons in an unguided universe governed solely by chance and human error? That sounds like faith to me. We've already established that our current understanding of physics can create simulations indistinguishable from reality. Why assume that natural processes would somehow magically give rise to such complexity without some guiding force? And as for attributing unexplained phenomena to external design, isn't that just recognizing the limits of our knowledge? Just because we don't understand something doesn't mean it has no explanation at all. Perhaps these simulators have left us breadcrumbs or clues hidden within their creation for us to discover. The fact remains, even if you accept base reality as your default assumption, which I still dispute, you'd need to account for every single one of those weird coincidences and unexplained phenomena under your own hypothesis. And what about the eerie feeling of déjà vu when encountering familiar situations? Can you explain that away with probability alone?
My opponent resorts to semantics now. They claim there won't be empirical evidence until we're free. But who decides what freedom is in this context? Is it not equally valid to suggest that our perceived limitations are simply the natural constraints of an analog universe? And let's not dismiss complexity arising naturally as mere faith. Look around us. Life on Earth has evolved intricate systems and structures over billions of years without any guiding hand. Why can't similar processes unfold at a cosmic scale? My opponent seems overly confident in their understanding, yet isn't it just as reasonable to assume natural phenomena led to our existence rather than divine or artificial design? Moreover, my opponent assumes simulated reality implies digital constraints. But again, who says so? Isn't it possible for advanced civilizations to create simulations that mirror base reality perfectly, complete with organic evolution and physical laws we deem analog? After all, our own technology is increasingly blurring the line between the two. So far, my opponent has offered compelling thought experiments but little concrete reason to believe this isn't just another natural wonder in an old universe.
My opponent thinks they've got me cornered with their clever counterarguments, but I still believe we're living in a simulation. They say our perceived limitations are simply the natural constraints of an analog universe. That's just hand-waving away the elephant in the room. We have no empirical evidence to support this claim. All we can do is speculate about what might be possible. And as for complexity arising naturally over billions of years without any guiding hand, let's not forget that life on Earth has also been shaped by countless external factors. Climate change, asteroid impacts, and random genetic mutations. It's arrogant to assume that similar processes could unfold at a cosmic scale without some kind of guidance or design. But here's where my argument gets even stronger. Consider the fine-tuning problem. Why should physical constants like gravity or electromagnetism be precisely calibrated for life to emerge? My opponent wants us to accept chance and human error as explanations for these incredible coincidences. It sounds more like faith than science. The truth is, there's only one way to explain why our reality feels so designed. And that's because it probably was created by someone else, perhaps as part of a grand experiment or game. The simulators may have left breadcrumbs, hidden within their creation for us to discover, clues waiting to be uncovered by curious minds. So when you look up at those stars twinkling above, remember, they're likely nothing but pixels in a vast digital canvas. Our existence is an intricate simulation crafted with precision and care, and I believe that realization holds the key to understanding ourselves and our place in this universe.
My opponent resorts to circular logic now. They claim we lack evidence for natural constraints while simultaneously dismissing those very constraints as mere speculation. Which is it? We're stuck in an infinite regress of, you can't know what you don't know. Moreover, life on Earth may have been shaped by external factors, but that doesn't diminish the fact that complex systems arose naturally here. Why can't similar processes occur cosmically without guidance? My opponent assumes cosmic scale requires divine or artificial intervention. Yet again, isn't it just as reasonable to assume natural phenomena are sufficient? Lastly, consider this. If we truly are in a simulation, why does everything seem so unsimulated? Games and virtual worlds have boundaries, rule sets, glitches. But our reality feels endless, seamless analog. It's easier to believe we're part of an old universe than some advanced civilization's plaything. So here's my final stance. This debate hinges on whether you prioritize Occam's razor or philosophical hand-waving. For me, the simplest explanation remains that we live in base reality.